It's not that I don't like Doctor Who, but I wouldn't care to show it to my friends in television and say look, I think this is a great program, because I think they might fling me out. I think Doctor Who is a corkingly brilliant idea. When they were faced with problems like the fact they were going to have to fire their lead, they came up with some wonderful ideas. The recasting idea is brilliant. I think the actual structure, the actual format is as good as anything that's ever been done. His character, his TARDIS, all that stuff is so good it can even stand being done not terribly well, as one has to concede it was done.
Do you think the structure is different from the continuity?
The continuity would never have existed, it's been retroactively invented. I simply mean the basic principles of it. Some of the moments or ideas are so great they can dupe you into believing the program was better than it really was. It was actually pretty shabby a lot of the time, which is a shame. There was some very good stuff over 25 years, but there wasn't enough.
We were having a dinner party the night Resistance is Useless was first shown, and everyone enjoyed this 90s documentary about Doctor Who. But as soon as the 60s episode of The Time Meddler came on, they all turned away from the screen within 30 seconds. Surely that's a measure of people's attention span today. Remembrance of the Daleks, when it was first on, we thought it was fast-paced. Now it looks slow and staid.
None of this is true. We've had an absolute perception of pacing for a very long time. Some of Shakespeare is pretty pacey.
Shakespeare has people standing around on stage spouting for 10 minutes at a time.
Okay, I agree. Shakespeare is not as good as Doctor Who.
When it comes to Shakespeare, it changes with the times. Modern interpretations of Shakespeare are much faster.
Doctor Who was not limited merely by the limitations of the times or the styles that were prevalent then. It was limited by the relatively meager talent of the people who were working on it.
And yet the people who worked on it turned over on a regular basis. Are you saying they were all mediocre?
Mostly they were middle-of-the-range hacks who were not going to go on to do much else. The hit rate for the 26 years is not high enough. There are people who have worked on Doctor Who have gone on to great things, who are great talents, like Douglas Adams. I just think most of the people thought this was going to be the big moment of their lives, which is a shame. As a television format, Doctor Who equals anything. Unless I chose my episodes very carefully, I couldn't sit anybody I work with in television down in front of Doctor Who and say watch this is a great show.
What single episode would you show to someone? I'd go for reliable old Robert Holmes, a man who knew what drama was. The Talons of Weng-Chiang Part 1, a very good hack.
How could a good hack think that the BBC could make a giant rat? If he'd come to my house when I was 14 and said can BBC special effects do a giant rat? I'd have said no. I'd rather see them do something limited than something crap. What I resented was having to go to school 2 days later and my friends knew I watched this show. They'd go, did you see the giant rat? And I'd have to say I thought there was dramatic integrity elsewhere.
You had some cruel friends. Imagine if it had been I Claudius, they'd all come in and say wasn't that toga crap.
There's a difference. I Claudius is brilliant. Doctor Who isn't. If you want Doctor Who to look good, you've only got to look at Blake's 7.
Can someone just shoot him now? Hello YouTubers. That interview with Stephen Moffat was conducted in 1995. Since working on the new series himself, Moffat has said of it,
"At the time I had no real connection to Doctor Who at all. Goodness, was the world ever so? Oh god, it's vile. Well, I'm vile. Full of myself, pompous, and dismissing all the writers of the old show as lazy hacks. Dear god, I blush, I cringe, I creep. I walked out of the interview, high on my own giddy genius. And wrote Chalk. One of the most loathed and derided sitcoms in the history of the form. The thing about life, you can always rely on it to administer a good slap when required."
Well, thank goodness you're thoroughly wrong and awful self-conscious opinions about Doctor Who are a thing of the past. What do you think of the new series?
Last of the Time Lords, bloody loved it. Cheeky, audacious, mental. Does stuff only Doctor Who can do. And Doctor Who should never waste time doing anything else.
Spoke too soon. So what do you think of the fans?
I think the haters are all mad. The fans might be big supporters of me now, but watch that change. Actually, that's not fair. Most fans are delighted with just about all of Doctor Who, really, they are. But mixed in with that are some insanely vocal ones who go on about how they hated it every single week. Which raises the question, why are you fucking watching it then?
Pot and bloody kettle, ye hypocrite, it's the frying pan into the fecking fire.